we need to have a discussion about Louis Rossmann and Brian Lunduke and LibreWolf and Mozilla Firefox and so on and so forth. So if you haven't been catching up with the latest tech news, Mozilla decided it was a good idea to make a terms of use for a web browser. Now, I don't know why my glasses are dirty, but I do know that browsers don't need a terms of use, because a browser is not a service. A browser is a program. It's a program that you use to access various websites on the internet. See, this thing is, the internet is just the routing layer. What you really use when you use a browser are World Wide Web sites. They are just pages on servers that show you information in various forms, graphical, textual, whatever. And the browser formats this stuff and delivers it to your beautiful eyes. The problem is, you need a terms of use in Firefox because they're now an ad company that's going all in on AI, and they want to be able to siphon up everything that you do. So people have been bailing on Firefox, and now Louis Rossmann is a person who makes YouTube videos, and I watch quite a few of those videos. I follow him fairly closely, not as closely as some. But in general, I do respect Louis Rossmann's opinions and his work, and just generally I agree with Louis Rossmann on most things. But what I'm reading is a big dent in that confidence. Now, there's another character that's involved in this. His name is Brian Lunduke, but he's really only a minor tangent, because here's the timeline of events. Mozilla goes off the rails with the terms of use that says if you upload or type anything into Firefox, they can siphon it up and do anything that they want with it. You grant them a license to do so. And Louis Rossmann recommended that you bail from that to LibreWolf. LibreWolf is a Firefox fork. There are several of these. Waterfox, Iceweasel, IceCat, there's tons of them. There's even Pale Moon, which I highly don't recommend. But moving on. Brian Lunduke he's generally a conservative commentator in the tech field, and he is often shunned by a lot of these companies, especially these Silicon Valley, open source project, whatever. But Mozilla, excuse me, I'm having some digestion issues there. Mozilla has gone off the rails. They are far left, radical, woke, whatever you want to call it. They are very politically active, and they've made it clear that they are an activist company first and an open source technology company second. Let me tell you the difference in philosophy between Mozilla and, say, just an open source project that isn't insane. I write software. In particular, the piece of software that I'm most known for is called JDupes, which has nothing to do with Java. It's a fork of FDupes, and it finds duplicate files. It is in use on tens of thousands or more machines, I'm sure. I originally did some work to make FDupes faster, and my changes, which admittedly were garbage compared to what I have today, were rejected, and so I eventually made a fork so that people could reap the benefits of my labor, which is the whole point of open source, that you work on stuff as a passion project or whatever, you make free software, and you distribute that software so other people can also reap the benefits. You take thousands and thousands of people who do this, and you end up with this ecosystem where tons of people are making software that even more people get to benefit from, and they're no longer tied to the likes of Microsoft or Apple or Oracle or whoever. Take your pick. Some big corporations don't control what you can do with a computer because you have all these other options that release control to you explicitly. That's the whole point of open source software. And also, it doesn't matter what your politics are, because everyone benefits from everyone else using open source software. Everyone can take a copy of LibreOffice and save their documents in open document text format. And now everyone else with LibreOffice or whatever can open those open document text files, and they don't have to beg Microsoft for a subscription to Office 365 to be able to access their data. They now can access it whenever, wherever, for free, anywhere. It's this universal format. And you know what? If let's say some far-left lunatic doesn't like some far-right Nazi sympathizer or whatever, and, you know, the point is, if the far-right lunatic writes something that the far-left lunatic doesn't like, but they do it in LibreOffice and save it in an open document, then the far-left lunatic now has access to the free software used by the far-right lunatic so that they can argue properly, because you can't argue with something you can't read, right? And that's kind of the whole point, is that open source is not actually supposed to be political in the left-right sense. It's supposed to be political in the freedom versus soft slavery to large corporations sense. And these crazy, crazy people have completely lost sight of that. Mozilla, they don't exist as a company that is meant to be beneficial to people anymore. They haven't for a long time, to be perfectly honest, but it's finally landed in their product. And because they are turning their products into cancer, they are blacklisted for me, and they should be blacklisted for you. You should never use Firefox again. My Thunderbird's been locked at an old version for a very long time because of their tragic UI updates that some idiots think is actually good. For some reason, modern means make a user interface look like dog shit, but at least it's different now. Oh, it's so modern. Never mind that you make things harder to do, make things uglier, make things more difficult to differentiate. Hey, at least it's modern, right? At least it's unusable, but it's not dated. Okay, whatever, lunatic. Anyway, a little bit of a digression, but I have a lot of hatred for bad UI, and it seems like everything that's a modern UI is trash. We'll talk about that some other time. Wink. So, Firefox has a terms of use. It's disastrous. People are jumping ship. Louis Rossmann, how many subscribers does this guy have? Oh, 2.19 million subscribers on YouTube. Louis Rossmann recommends, in light of this, that you bail to LibreWolf. Well, Brian Lunduke found out that the people behind LibreWolf basically think that anybody who disagrees with them on the left-right political spectrum is evil and a Nazi, and thus censorship is good. We hate you, blah, blah, blah. You get the idea. So Louis Rossmann went off on this leftist meme of a rant. And here, let me just flip the focus. I always regret doing this. Let me flip the focus thing on the camera so you can see it. See, here's the Louis Rossmann leftist meme. The definitive Louis Rossmann leftist. This was his response when someone told him about the Brian Lunduke video, where Brian Lunduke talks about the LibreWolf thing. Look how long it took me to get to the next comment. This leftist meme wall of text piece of crap is his response to basically say, I don't care about the politics of the people who make my software. Louis, respectfully, you're an idiot. And let me put it in a way that you might understand, because I've watched your videos for a long time. You talk about Apple's repeated engineering failures. This is a failure on your part. This is your engineering failure. This is your social failure. Now, I'm autistic. I understand social failure. I don't remember if you're autistic or not. Somebody out there is autistic. For all I know, Richard Stallman's probably autistic. There's a lot of autistic software developers. Unfortunately, a lot of them are also very easy to socially pressure and fall for the pressures that make them radicals. But here, let's talk about this. Louis Rossmann, you have fucked up. You are fucking stupid. Because you're saying, oh, I don't care. I don't research the political views of the people who make open source software I use. Who I choose to be my wife, best friend, etc. That's one thing. But the day I spend time Googling to figure out if Mousepad or OBS Studio is woke or something is the day I give up on life. Louis, the Mozilla thing, you're telling people to bail on Firefox because of the terms of use. You are the originator of the term rapist mentality. So, if you have a signal, if you have a big red flag waving in your face that says, hi, I'm a software project, I'm the admin of a software project, and I want to be a rapist mentality to you. I don't understand you, man. I don't understand how you reconcile these two things. See, what's going on here is what often happens with people who try to be reasonable. it's called, what's it called? The fallacy of the middle ground. So there is a common myth that if you have an extreme position here, an extreme position here, that the truth lies somewhere in the middle. But the fallacy of the middle ground, the truth can often be found somewhere between them. But the fallacy of the middle ground is, here's extremism, here's extremism, here's the truth right here in the center. Now, what this does not take into account, and this has been a problem for a while, people do not consider that, okay, let's say these are the extremes, okay? Unfortunately, I'm looking at this on this camera, and I can't tell which side is left, but hey, so these are the extremes, so here's the truth, okay? Now, if one side goes more extreme, and more extreme, and more extreme, this is what the left in this country has actually done. This is what leftism, Democrats, whatever you want to call them, has done in this country. They've gone radical left. Okay, but the right-wingers have largely remained here, and even to some extent have gone this way. So now the middle ground is here, not here. So this is what we're dealing with. This is the problem with the fallacy of the middle ground, is that the middle ground depends on where the extremes are. And if one extreme gets pushed this way, now the middle ground is this way. So by applying this fake attempting to sit on the fence and not take sides and not be political at all mentality, what you do is you just allow the ground to be seeded in a particular direction. You are not a centrist because you're in the center. You're a centrist because you don't fall into the extremes. That's what centrism is. This is sort of a fallacy in and of itself, I would call it, where people think that centrism means that, well, you just don't stand for anything. But really what it means is, I'm not here, I'm somewhere in this spectrum because I don't believe everything these lunatics say, and I don't believe everything these radicals say. I'm somewhere in between because I actually think for myself, and I'm not some sort of psychopath. The problem with Louis Rossmann is that he's fence-sitting because he doesn't want to get political. But Louis, you are political. You already have gotten political. Everything that you do at this point is political. You are political in terms of software. You are political in terms of right to repair. You're political in terms of devices. Now, you push for freedom, okay? And I understand that. And I understand you don't want to get involved in the whole Democrat versus Republican, woke versus not woke, whatever. You don't want to get involved in the culture war. But the problem is, if you don't at least get somewhat involved in the culture war gets involved with you. And that's the problem. Louis is the guy right now who is saying, I recommend LibreWolf. Then when told, hey, LibreWolf hates you and wants to screw you over too, if you disagree with them, they would like to shut you up forever. That is a goal, an explicit goal of the people running it, is to shut you up if you disagree with them. You can't say, I am for maximal freedom, then in the next sentence be like, well, I don't want to care about the politics of these people that make this thing that I'm recommending because that's ridiculous. I just don't want to be politically involved that way. I don't care about the politics of the people who make my software. When the people push an update that screws over all the people using the software that disagree with them, and this is not some sort of thing that I'm just like theorizing about. It would be trivial for someone to push out an automatic update to LibreWolf and then be like, oh, hey, a new update is available. And then all of a sudden, boom. Now, isn't this the exact thing, Louis, that you advocate against? This is the thing that you spend all your time going, oh, I don't like this. I don't like this thing where they change the terms after the sale. I don't like this where people who want to be able to do something with the products that they own suddenly can't do it. So you're saying that you don't want to get political. Oh, I don't want to have to deal with this left-right thing. I don't want to have to talk about the woke thing. I don't care about the woke thing, except the woke thing cares about you, Louis. The woke thing cares about your users, Louis. The woke thing wants you and your users to shut up if you don't agree with their particular radical political ideologies. They don't want you to be able to be free in that way. And you cannot go out there and say, I'm all for freedom. I am radical freedom against all of these people controlling you and what you can do with your computer, and then be like, but I recommend this browser in this leftist meme of a post here. I recommend this browser that is all for not your freedom. I recommend this browser that where the people who run it have said they would love to just shut up all the far-right Nazis. And who decides what's a far-right Nazi? They do, of course. And what is a far-right Nazi to them? Well, that would be anybody who disagrees with them politically. And where are their politics? Right here, way over here somewhere in the psychotic radical end of the spectrum. Okay? So while you're trying to go, oh, I want to keep my political stuff, and I don't want to care about politics. So I want to be ambivalent. I don't want to have to care. I just want to be right here, somewhere on the fence in the middle, not really taking sides. I don't care. These people are like, well, if you disagree at all, we'll shut you up. So you would recommend and continue to recommend a product and be like, oh, I don't care about the politics of the product. I don't care about the politics of the product that I use. Let's see. It's a waste of time in the same way I find most of that channel to be a waste of time. Yeah, you're talking shit about Lunduke. Okay. I don't care about that route. The channel just isn't interesting. How's it not interesting? People wanting to shut you up isn't interesting. You spend all your time talking about the rapist mentality of all of these companies. And then Lunduke, he also talks about the rapist mentality of a bunch of these companies. You don't find that interesting. What's really going on here, Lewis, I'm calling you out on this, is you're fence sitting. You're fence sitting because you don't want to be political in the left-right sense. You don't want to get involved in that. And I understand that. But here's the thing, okay? Donglegate happened. These guys were at this Python conference back in like 2012 or something. I can't remember the exact year. But early 2010s, right when the whole SJW whatever thing kicked off, okay? And this was part of the kickoff. This is what changed me from a guy who's just sitting there writing neat little things in Linux and setting up servers and playing with hardware and software and goofing off with Linux and just, generally having a good time with computers by itself, running my little PC repair shop for like 5 or 6 years at that point. This is what converted me from someone who was apolitical to someone who took political stances and who actually cared about the politics, particularly in the tech industry. These two guys were making goofy kindergarten level jokes, dongles and forking, at a tech conference, PyCon. Maybe it was 2013. Anyway, I think 2012 was Atheism Plus, but 2013 is really what kicked it off for me. These guys are making these stupid little kiddie jokes. This woman named Adria Richards, she's sitting in front of them, and here's the jokes. She's this like social media manager with some glorified title like evangelist, 50,000 Twitter followers, and she takes a picture of these guys behind her and blasts them publicly on her Twitter that she uses to promote her company. I think it was SendGrid at the time. So she's a marketing person. She has so big social media presence. Here's two guys behind her making some frankly silly juvenile jokes that shouldn't offend anyone. Something about dongles and I'd fork his repo. If you know about code, that just means that I'd make a copy of his code so that I can work on it. Is juvenile. I can make way worse jokes. George Carlin's joke about Elmer Fudd. Look it up. I'm not going to say it now. But these guys weren't really doing anything wrong. At worst, maybe someone might have heard them and been like, ugh, what losers. But this woman took a picture of them, blasted them to 50,000 Twitter followers, tagged PyCon on Twitter, got these guys kicked out of the conference, and they lost their jobs. I think both of them were fathers. One of them, I think, had 4 kids, and both of them lost their jobs because she blasted them publicly. She ultimately lost her job because of the collective outrage of the internet. It was all a real fiasco, but the truth of the matter is that Louis Rossman's the kind of guy who'd say, I don't want to get political. This was just stupid. Both sides were stupid. No, both sides weren't stupid. Two guys were telling dumb jokes, and this woman, on her blog, she posted that she felt like she was basically Tech Joan of Arc, and she was thinking about some little girl that wouldn't be able to ever do what she wanted in the tech industry because of guys like this telling dongle jokes. Really? Really? Okay, I'm sorry, but if you make it to 18 years of age, regardless of your sex, if you make it to 18 years of age and you cannot handle a stupid juvenile kindergarten level dongle joke, You are not a robust human, and perhaps you shouldn't be part of the gene pool at all. There is a major parental or societal or both failure involved in this notion that anyone who makes it to the age of majority can't handle a joke like that, or they'll curl up in the fetal position crying on the floor and want their safe space instead of continuing to do what they want. If you're a good parent, if you're a good mentor, teacher, professor, whatever, if you're a good role model of any sort, what you do is you encourage people to be robust. Oh, they criticized you. Oh, you had a failure. Oh, something's in your way. You bulldoze, plow, whatever, through that failure. You take that failure and turn it into your success. You don't sit there and cry about it and go, I'm outraged and I need help, blah, blah, blah. But the problem is these guys lost their livelihoods, couldn't support their families anymore because somebody got political at a tech conference. They heard a joke that they just didn't like. And the ultimate icing on this cake is that when the woman heard the joke and did all this stuff, got these guys fired, ultimately got fired herself, wrote about how she felt like she was Joan of Arc. People look back at her Twitter history. You know what was in her Twitter history not that long before that? Her talking about taking a bundle of socks and packing them in such a way that it looked like she had a huge dick. TSA agent faint. So she's making dick jokes on her public Twitter about TSA agents. Then she goes in there and says, oh, these guys made a dongle joke. I'm so offended. And on behalf of a 9-year-old girl that doesn't exist, that it won't be robust and that'll probably end up in some sort of psych ward because she's just that incapable of handling basic reality. And that's what really kicked it off for me. That's when I realized, holy crap, these people really exist and they'll get you fired for a minor infringement. They will ruin your life over something so minor, and they can do it, and other people exist that will enable them to do it. So we live in that world. We have lived in that world for well over a decade now, Lewis. And you're going to sit there and say, I'm going to complain about these companies changing terms of service. I'm going to complain about these companies siphoning your data off to feed into their AI or whatever. You're going to complain about the rapist mentality in terms of service, in corporate behavior. You're going to complain about all of that. You're going to go so far as to create software like GrayJ that's supposed to bypass the rapist mentality. But then, when an issue comes up where the browser you're recommending absolutely has the same mentality and would gladly shut you up if you were so much as to breathe disagreement. Oh no, I don't want to get political. I don't look up the politics of the thing that you didn't even have to. The word spread far enough that it got to you. You didn't even have to do the work to find out that LibreWolf wanted to fuck you. They will gladly fuck you really hard, and you're just like, I don't care. I'll take it up the ass. As long as I don't have to get political, I'll take it up the ass. It's okay. I'm Louis Rossman. I'm a fucking, and I'll beat them up if they get the rapist mentality. Unless it's something I just recommended, and in that case, I'll just distance myself from it with a leftist meme or the wall of text reply. I don't get it, man. I just don't get it. I don't understand. I'm sorry. I keep looking down the phone, man. I didn't even read all this. Do you know why I didn't read all this? Because fundamentally, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. What you can say whatever you want, but it doesn't change the fact that this is an issue. It is the kind of issue that you should be worried about, and you're not, and it's not for any valid reason. There's no valid reason for you to not be worried about it. In fact, let me pull up my response. I said it's not the right-wing version of it to have a browser project that loudly declares its the right-wing version of woke. To have a browser project that loudly declares it's pro-censorship and that people who disagree with their politics are all Nazi. Your reply is leftist meme tier long, but it doesn't matter because you're missing the fundamental truth by trying to play centrist fence sitter. This is about freedom. These people agree with Mozilla. That's all that matters. And you got so triggered over the word woke that you ceded intellectual control to the psychos. And you know what? That's where I'm going to leave this video, because that ultimately is my entire point, is that Louis Rossmann has lost the plot. Louis Rossmann is, for some strange reason, this is not a problem to him, even though it is exactly the sort of thing that has always been a problem to him. I don't get it. And I don't know if it's just that Brian Lunduke is such a controversial figure for some people, because he shows up in a Discord full of far-left lunatics and says, "Hi, I'd like to ask some questions about your project." They see his name and they immediately ban him and shut down everything so that nobody can join again. They completely run and hide when he shows up and just says, "Hey, I want to ask some questions." I mean, I don't know what your problem is with Brian Lunduke. I know you said it's not interesting, even though the channel covers a lot of stuff that's exactly the sort of stuff that you should be interested in. I don't get it. Make it make sense, Louis, my man. Make it make any sense at all. I don't understand. Please. Yes, I am aware of the irony of wearing an adulting 1-star shirt while making this autistic rant. I hope you enjoyed it too. You know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that crap. I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Oh, by the way, WaterFox. WaterFox is the one you should be using right now. No, you don't have to know Linux to do it. It's got a Windows installer. Just go use WaterFox. Later.